Let's meet at the library. Okay.
Hi everyone, it's Julia and welcome back to my channel. Today, it's April 23rd. It's Shakespeare's birthday, although technically we don't actually know what day he was born, and we celebrate his birthday on the day of his death, which is kind of morbid. But I'm wearing my Shakespeare shirt. It says, "Stop making drama, you're not Shakespeare." So you know what I'm here to talk about, right? Obviously. I am here to make, for all of you lovely people, some Shakespeare adjacent book recommendations. So not actually recommending to you Shakespeare plays, because I just always do that in a general sense. Oh my god, go read Shakespeare. And I will be coming out with some videos in the near-ish future about like where to get started with Shakespeare and tips for reading Shakespeare, things like that. But for right now, we're gonna take it easy. We're gonna talk about modern English and novels for the most part versus plays. And I'm going to be recommending to you some books that are related to Shakespeare. Before we dive in, let me preface two things. One, there are, thankfully, so many Shakespeare retellings out there that I have not read all of them, obviously. So I don't want to hear anyone being like, "But Julia, what about Hagseed? I can't believe you forgot to mention blah blah blah." Like, I haven't read them all yet. I'm working on it, okay? So believe me, I have many Shakespeare retellings on my TBR. And, sorry, I'm gesturing so much that I'm losing my cuffs. And I'll probably make a future updated version of this video when I've read quite a few more. The other thing I want to say is I am going to be including some books on this list that I wasn't the biggest fan of, because just because they weren't for me doesn't mean they're not for you or somebody else. So I'll be mentioning that when I get to those books, but you know, I'm not gonna not mention a book just because it wasn't my favorite, because the things that I don't like in a story you might enjoy. So there we go. So because I am me, I have broken up this list into 3 categories, and then each of those sections has 2 subsections. You'll get it in a second. My wing 3 is really shining right now. So basically, of those 3 categories, I've broken the books up into light and dark reads because as you may know, Shakespeare wrote comedies, he also wrote tragedies, depending on where the authors pulled their inspiration. Some of these reads are pretty fun and fluffy, and some are downers, but good reads. So, let us begin. The first category is one that I enjoy quite a lot, and that is retellings in period. So they are either set in the Elizabethan era when Shakespeare was alive, or in whatever the setting for that specific play was. So the very first recommendation that I want to make is actually, I am pretty sure, the first Shakespeare retelling I ever read. How cute is that? And it is Romeo's X. This is obviously a book that is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. It's YA and it's centered around Rosaline or Rosalind, depending on how you want to pronounce her name. And she is, if you're not familiar with Romeo and Juliet, the character who isn't often seen in the play. She's not in the script. Some directors choose to have her, but that's not the point. She's the girl who Romeo is in love with at the beginning of the play before he sees Juliet. So that's the reason he says, like, "I'll carry the torch, I'm not in the mood for dancing," is because he's thinking about Rosaline. And I just get so excited thinking about this book and about Romeo and Juliet in general. And so this book follows Rosaline, who is Juliet's cousin, which is why she's invited to the Capulets' ball. And it involves fun hijinks and a cute little Rosaline Benvolio romance, which honestly is just my cup of tea. Benvolio is one of my favorite Shakespeare characters. I love him so much. I've basically never seen an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet where I'm like, ugh, Benvolio. Like, I always love the guy. I'm talking too long about this one. Let me just say, It's really cute. And on that same note, I will also recommend Still Star-Crossed. This also had a TV adaptation that I believe got canceled very sadly. But I highly recommend the show and the book. I think more so the show, just because I like how diverse they made the cast. Like, do that. You have that power. Go for it. So that's really fun, but it's another Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it's another Rosaline and Benvolio romance. This one's got really good, like, hate to love. I can't remember how hate to love-y Romeo's ex is, but it has to be because they're a Capulet and a Montague, right? I don't know. But both are really cute, and I just have a very soft spot in my heart for Romeo's ex. The last lighter recommendation in this category is one I actually just recently finished. That's why I'm staring at it over there. It is Miranda in Milan. So this is a retelling of The Tempest, and it's about Prospero's daughter Miranda, who while on the island was like, yeah, I love you, let's get married. But you know, it's like she has never really seen people before, so it's pretty easy to fall in love when it's like the first good-looking person you've ever met, right? But so it's about past the events of the play when she gets back to Milan and her dad is the Duke and he's in charge again, but there's weird, mysterious things happening, and everyone in the castle like treats her like she's this pariah, and she's trying to figure out why. And it was a good time. This does have a female-female romance, if that floats your boat. And I have to say, if you liked Girls Made of Snow and Glass, these two books are like so similar in so many ways. So like vice versa, if you like one of those, I think you'll really like the other. Okay, now for the darker recommendations. The first one I have is actually one that I talked about last month. I read it in February. Yeah, or March? When did I read it? I read it this year. It is Desdemona. So this is a really short read. It's a partial work of theater, partial like lyrics. I've never seen it performed, but I guess it has both spoken pieces and music. And it is a retelling of Othello from the point of view of Desdemona. But it's like in the afterlife. Spoilers for Othello. I might be spoiling a lot of Shakespeare plays. That's fine. So it's interesting. I mostly liked it, but I just kind of felt like it was kind of hard to pick up on like how Toni Morrison, the author, wanted us to feel about all these characters. I don't know. But as a fan of Othello, I enjoyed it. I don't know if it would be for everyone, but I think if you're familiar with Othello, then it could be something you would enjoy. And like I said, it's such a short read. It's like only going to take a half an hour of your time, so you're not really losing. The last retelling in period that I want to mention is Ophelia. This is, they're usually just the character's name of who the point of view is, but that's fine. This is a retelling of Hamlet from the point of view of Ophelia. And I read this a long time ago, to be fair. Like, I think I was in high school. And also I read it before I was familiar with the story of Hamlet, so that could be why I just didn't like it, because I'm like, well, this ending sucks, is because I didn't have like the context of the play. And there was also a movie adaptation of this made fairly recently with Daisy Ridley. Honestly, I loved it. Aesthetically, it was a delight, and I mean, I'd rewatch it. So yeah, not my favorite, but one that I kind of want to retry because I liked the movie. I don't know, for your consideration. Okay, the next category we have is the retellings that are set in modern times. This is, let me just say, this tends to be my least favorite category, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it has elements that I prefer less than the other two categories. Obviously, I like historical fiction a lot, so that explains why I prefer an in-period retelling, but let's dive in. So the first one in the light modern retellings is one that I adore. It's so cute. It's Midsummer's Mayhem. This is a kind of loose retelling of A Midsummer Night's Dream. It features just an adorable little Indian American girl, because it's middle grade. I think her name is Mimi, and she loves to bake, and some hijinks begin to happen when there's a new bakery that opens and people start behaving strangely, and Mimi notices that when she uses certain ingredients in the things she bakes, there are mysterious results, and it's so fun and so cute, and I love it. And also, when you read Midsummer's Mayhem, it's gonna make you just want to bake and eat all the delicious baked goods. Like, it's seriously like watching an episode of The Great British Bake Off. It's so good. The rest on this list are ones that I don't love as much, but are worth mentioning. So there's Vinegar Girl, which is a retelling of The Taming of the Shrew, which is just in and of itself one of my least favorite Shakespeare plays, so that makes sense. But I mean, it like gets the job done in terms of retellings. I think they did great things with Bianca's character and less so with Kate's, which is weird, but it wasn't the worst. There was some good banter, if that's what you like. If that's what you like in a relationship, they do have a little bit of that. So just putting that one out there. As for the darker modern retellings, first up I have Juliet Immortal. So this one is weird. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling that is based on the premise that Romeo and Juliet have been like reincarnated, and that there's like this whole weird, poorly world-built magic system about that, and there's like soulmates and things. And also I'm pretty sure the premise was that like Romeo murdered Juliet, which as a fan of Romeo and Juliet I'm not a fan of, and I did not like the absolute Romeo slander that occurred in this novel, which is probably why I didn't like it so much. It's fine. Oh, I think I just remembered a weird plot twist. We won't go into it. So it's a weird one, and I think it's actually a duology. I will never read the sequel, but if you're into like a darker contemporary with some low fantasy elements, you might like it more than I did. I don't know. I also have Shylock Is My Name, which is another one of the Hogarth Shakespeare books, just like, what's it called? Vinegar Girl. This is a retelling of The Merchant of Venice, which is different. Not a lot of people retell that one, even though it's a fun play, you know, except for the anti-Semitism. Fun time. This was, again, just okay for me. I didn't like a lot of the characterization, and I was hoping we were going to get a lot more of Jessica, who is Shylock's daughter. I just always want more of the female characters. So that's that, but I do think, if you're familiar with the play, I think the twist that they did on the demanding a pound of flesh thing was appropriate. So make of that comment what you will. And then lastly on this list, you know I gotta mention it, right? Foul is Fair is a Macbeth retelling. I personally was not a fan, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I didn't say that very convincingly. A lot of people really like this book. I was not one of them. I think if you enjoy a revenge story, if you enjoy like, I was gonna say violent feminism, that felt like a weird phrase. You enjoy like just like murderous girl characters, and you actually aren't that familiar with Macbeth, then it can really work for you. I think the more you know about Macbeth, the more questionable the book seems. I don't know why that is. I'm gonna move on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wanted to love it, okay? I'm still hurt. Finally, we have my favorite of these three categories, which is we're putting on a Shakespeare play and our lives seem to parallel the themes. I love it. It's a trope I'll never get tired of. Just think about that episode of Sweet Life, Zack and Cody where they did A Midsummer Night's Dream. How much fun was that? That's like what all these books are. Is that a niche reference? I don't think so. So for this category, I have 2 lighter recommendations and 2 darker recommendations. I think I'm actually going to start with the dark this time because the light 2 ones I love so much that I just want to end with those. So first up we have Station 11. This is like a post-apocalyptic novel that follows a troupe of players who I believe were performing King Lear, if I remember correctly. It's been a couple of years since I read this book. But yeah, it's got like cool elements that really tie the story together as you go on, and might be a little hard to read in our current world climate, but it works. It was a good story. Also in the darker we're putting on a play category, do you guys really not know? It's If We Were Villains, Doy. So If We Were Villains follows a group of students at this prestigious Shakespeare Academy, which honestly, oh my god, I want to go to that school. I want it to be real and I want to be there. Is it a real school? I never looked that up. I wish it was a real school and that I was a student there. Anyways, so it follows this group of characters who are all very much typecast in their roles. You know, like one always plays the bombshell love interest, one always plays the ingenue, you know, one's always the good guy, one's always the powerful king, one's always the villain, blah, 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 blah. You get it. And mysterious things happen. And by mysterious things, I mean there's a murder, and we are jumping between the present timeline when our main character is getting out of jail for the crime, and also what was happening in the past, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm not like full 5 stars as gushy as everyone else, but I think it's a really good book. I enjoyed it. Maybe just for the atmosphere, but I liked. Okay, and then the last 2 are the lighter ones. First we have Star-Crossed, which, oh my god, is so cute. So this is a middle grade novel about a girl named Maddie, and I believe she was in 8th grade, and her 8th grade class is putting on Romeo and Juliet. And this story is so cute. It's about her discovering her love for Shakespeare and performing, and also like realizing that she's bi, and it's just like so cute. I think it was, everything in it was handled so perfectly for the age demographic, and it was just like adorable, and I loved it. And then finally, the last book I have for you today is Always Never Yours, and again, this one is just so cute. This is also about a school putting on Romeo and Juliet, but they are high schoolers. This is like very much a friends to lovers situation, and also our main character, I think, am I remembering this correctly? Her ex is playing Romeo opposite her. I believe that's the case, but that's not the love interest, that's her ex. And yeah, there was just so much about this book to love. I loved the characters, I loved the way the different plot threads interwove. I think there were like maybe a few too many side plots that like just went on a little too long, like drama with her friends, but it was just so sweet and so cute, and I absolutely loved the romance in this one. So yeah. So there you have it. There are all of my Shakespeare adjacent recommendations. Hopefully you guys can pick some of these up if you are wanting to read some Shakespeare but are a little intimidated, or if you just kind of want to stew in one of your favorite stories the way I like to do. This is a great way to do that without constantly rereading. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and comment and subscribe and hit that little notification bell because I'm super inconsistent with my uploading. So that'll help you know when I upload a video. And let me know if you want a part 2 to this, because, you know, I'd be totally fine prioritizing some more Shakespeare retellings in my life. That's just how it is. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and you'll see more from me soon. Bye!